Hey guys, this is Becca here. Happy almost 2020. That's just crazy for me to even say. It seems like it was only a couple weeks ago I was getting ready to use a digital planner for the first time for a whole year. I was trying to understand everything and trying to learn ZoomNotes, and now the whole year is over and starting up for 2020 tomorrow. That's just crazy. This year just flew by. My husband just left for work and I only have to work half a day today, so I thought be a good time to kill some time and film a video. I don't think I've done one since I did all the tutorials in December of last year. It's definitely way too early. I feel like my voice is not there yet, but I figured I'd go ahead and do a walkthrough of my 2020 setup and how I'm going to use, still sticking with ZoomNotes, how I'm going to use ZoomNotes for digital planning. I actually kind of toyed around with that idea a lot. My my 2019 planner over here, I was able to consistently use it up until maybe towards the end of August, beginning of September. I had set up September, and my file is just getting ridiculously huge because of how many Procreate images I was bringing in to cover up pages. So I think it's sitting at over 1,000 megs, and it still works. I don't have any crashing issues, but it is definitely slow at times. So I started thinking about what I want to do for next year, and I thought I would go ahead and try making my own. Like I said, about September, the file was getting really huge, and I thought instead of continuing to drag in stickers and decorate and for the rest of the year and get this file to Lord knows what ridiculous size, I started putting more effort into making my, oh, there's my husband now. I guess he just got to work. I started putting in all my effort into making my 2020 planner, and I kind of just didn't do a whole lot of digital planning at the end of the year since I didn't want to make that file any bigger. What it did is give me the opportunity to kind of play around with some other apps that I have that I don't get to use very often. So over here in Note Shelf, I keep my 5 year planner or my 5 year journal, I guess, that I started at the beginning of the year. I need to fill in for yesterday still. This 5 year planner that I created um, just to kind of, journal throughout the year. And I wanted to play around with Note Shelf because people kept saying that they really enjoyed um, the handwriting in Note Shelf. And I will say, I do think it's really nice. I probably think it's my favorite app to write in. But I definitely don't like it personally for digital planning. But I do like it for handwriting. So I put my journal in here because all I do is, flip to whatever day and do my one journal entry. So I'm going to leave this one over here in Note Shelf. Also, this was the first thing I ever tried to make, and these were huge graphics in Procreate. So this file is also quite large, and ZoomNotes definitely did not like that. Um, but it works well in Note Shell. So I've been keeping up with that over here throughout the year. And then I also was playing around in the new GoodNotes version. We recently moved. We closed on this house at the end of October. So for the last half of the year, I had created this notebook just to kind of get me excited, I guess, about moving while we were preparing to move. So I created this notebook and I used it for the last couple of months and have information here about our house. And then I have all these categories for all these different rooms in our house. And I was just getting ideas for how I wanted to decorate, what I needed to buy, what I wanted to put on a wish list. And so I have all these different categories that I set up. So these are basically, I've been using these other little journals throughout the end of the year and just writing, paper to do lists at work. Because I really was getting concerned about how huge the file was for my digital planner. So what I decided was the reason it was so huge is because I was putting in so many Procreate images and they were large files every single day, every single month to cover up and put in the formats that I liked. So I decided maybe if I made my own planner, put in my own stuff right from the very beginning, put in my own, layouts that I liked from the very beginning, and then exported it and compressed it, maybe I wouldn't have that problem next year. So this is the 2020 planner that I made over here. And I mean, it's pretty much pretty much complete. I mean, I have all my months set up and I have all my weekly setups. And the file is only like 40 megs, I think, by the time I exported it out of Keynote and I exported it out of Keynote as a PDF and imported it into Adobe Acrobat and saved it as a compressed file. And it ended up about 45 megs, which I didn't think was too terrible. So I'll probably just go ahead and leave it at that size since I've already started, setting it up. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to use for 2020. And I definitely want to stick with ZoomNotes because there's too many things that I'm used to having. When I try to use one of those other apps, it just drives me batty that I can't do some of the things that I want to do. So the first thing that I did when I brought this planner over, if I go here to the next page. So this is sort of the basic layout of what my pages look like. And in my previous planner, I always had the page thing over here on the right-hand side. So I immediately brought it in and went, oh crap, it's going to cover up all of my tabs if I leave that out, because I like to leave it out for page navigation since the swiping is still a little funky in ZoomNotes, which is fine. I was really used to using the page buttons over here, and then I brought it in and yep, they were all covered. And of course, if I move it to the top, it was going to cover all of my top tabs. And if I move it to the left, my tabs flip over to the left as I go throughout the year. So it was going to cover the tabs over there as well. So I was like, should I resize this whole planner so that I have room over here? And then, throughout discussions on the Facebook page, I finally decided I was going to go ahead and just put in the hyperlink page navigations and see how I like that. And I actually think that it works out really well. So that's these two little gray, they're sort of like arrows. I think they kind of look like arrows. They're actually just a random letter in like a wingdings font, and it looked enough like an arrow. I decided to use it. Again, I was trying to not input too many graphics into the planner that I didn't need to just for file size. I want to say I'm going to do some big Procreate images for some of my layouts, so I don't want to have the file size too large. So I wanted to put a little text box here. So I put a text box, put in these two little wingding fonts, and figured that they looked enough like arrows. So what I did for these, close my page tab over here. If I go into my layers, I created a master layer that I just call navigation. And then, so here it is down here, navigation. I'll go ahead and go to that layer. So I put in the text box and it's just these two arrows. So I just centered them up here. So when I go to my health tab, it flips over to the left. So I just kind of centered them in here where they would be visible regardless of where my health tabs were at. So it's just text box with these two little wingding arrow font things. Here's the font over here. I have no idea where I got that or if it's even part of ZoomNotes. I don't remember. So once I put in my text box, I drew two shapes, one here and one here, over these arrows. And if I go into the shape, you'll see I just made it, I had no border and no fill, so it's transparent. But then over here for link on the shape, I just did the link function to next page. Can see here, and then on the left one I just did link function previous page. So it does the exact same thing as what the page navigation buttons were doing. So I don't have to have that out anymore. I don't really use sub pages very often anymore. So if I do, I'll have to just open it for that. But for the most part, I had it open just to navigate back and forth. And these buttons work really well. I feel like when I originally was playing around with this idea in September, I set this up and I felt like it was a little clunky. Like they were working, but when I was tapping on them, there was a pretty big delay in how long it took for it to actually move pages. Let me see. So after you finish, I didn't make any changes, but after you finish working on a master layer, you should always go back and lock that layer so that if you did make any changes, it gets replicated out to everywhere else. And, but now I think it navigates pretty quickly. So I don't know if there was an improvement in something since I first played around with it in September, but it's working really great and I'm really happy with it. On my first page, I just set it to have its own layers so that it's not using what all the other pages are doing. And I went up here and I just put the navigate forward button since there is no back. Um, yeah, so I think it works out really well. And actually, I kind of like it more than having to keep that bar open on the side because I'm kind of obsessive, obsessive neat freak about that stuff. So it's actually kind of nice. I don't have to leave that bar open anymore. And then my next page here is my year at a glance, and I think I bought these stickers. Oh, it's from one of the other groups that I'm in. I can't remember. But I bought these off of I think it was an Etsy store, maybe. It's been a really long time since when they were released and I bought them. And then I have a blank page at the end of every section, if that makes sense. So if I ever need to duplicate pages in that section, I will have a blank page that has all of the tabs in the correct place that they need to be. So at the end of every single section, I always make sure to put in one blank page so I can copy it and move it into that section if I need to, and all the tabs will be where they need to be. So that's my first section there. And then I have all my tabs across the top are my first sections that I go through. So I'm still in the process of setting up a lot of these. I think in this one, in my health tab, I only have my level 10 light here that I set up yesterday. I still need to fill out, but that's the only tab I've done. So I still have some setup to do, and I probably won't finish by tomorrow, but we'll see how far I get today. I'm probably gonna work on them while I'm at work. Otherwise, I might film a YouTube video while I work on them. But I might work on them during my break at work, and I don't really want people to hear me in my office talking to myself. I really, really enjoy all of the digital planners that I see, but I don't know. A lot of them don't fit for the style of planner that I think that I am. I've always really been into paper planning. I like to do a lot of really personal stuff in my planner as far as tracking my health, be it physical or mental or spiritual wellness. And I like to make lists and I like to set up goals and I like to do travel planning and all that stuff. But as far as actual planning, I'm very functional based and I'm very work based. So I like layouts that give me more space Monday through Friday. And I don't really do a lot of true weekend planning. And I don't really like to do a lot of decorating on my weeks either because I tend to leave, whether it's a paper planner or my iPad sitting on my desk, I tend to leave it open on that week while I'm at work sitting on my desk. So I don't really like it to be, full of tons of stickers and all that. So I tend to leave the decorating for, some of those personal pages or the monthly pages, but I'm very functional in my weeks and, I don't really have a lot of focus on my weekends. I was having a really hard time finding anything that worked for me. So I decided I would make this planner, give it all the stuff that I think works for my style. And I really wanted it to try to replicate some of the paper planners that I really enjoyed using and what I liked about them. And that was, really clean, simple color schemes that repeat and, not a lot of graphics, but a lot of words and a lot of quotes and things like that. I think my favorite paper planner company of all time was Inkwell Press. So if you've ever seen Inkwell Press, you might see some inspiration from that paper planner in my planner because it was my favorite one aesthetically. And so I spent a lot of time looking through, P&G websites and Etsy and buying actually a lot of these I think are even die cutting patterns that I bought for my silhouette machine. But I spent a lot of time looking up quotes that kind of spoke to me for each category of my planner because that was something I really miss in, paper planning is the big dashboards of quotes and things that kind of give you inspiration throughout the year. I think the cover I put on my planner here is an actual cover from maybe the Happy Planner or something like that. And I just put the picture on here on my cover. Same thing with my first little dashboard page here. I kind of miss that aspect of paper planning that you would turn to a month and have a big quote or a big dashboard like that. So I tried to incorporate some of that. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that's my health section. And then I have a goals section here, which I need to copy over all the goals that I've written so far. I was setting up my template yesterday. These ones here on the right are my monthly goals. So if I click on those links, it will take me to like my January dashboard, which has my January monthly pages or monthly goals as well. And the ones on the left are the templates I set up yesterday, are going to be, the big goals I set throughout the year. And so I haven't filled them in yet, but this is what my template looks like. Over here on the left, I can put what my goal is and why it's important to me. And then I think I really work well if I have what they call the SMART goal. So I have my goal and why it's important to me, and then I have steps that are very specific and measurable so that I know if I'm successful. And then over here on the right, I can check in at the end of every quarter and see if it's going well, if I completed it, if I need to, do a course correction, if the goal is no longer applicable and I need to change it or whatever. So that's going to be my goal setting. And let's see, next category is my lists, my collections. I tend to name it different things depending on how much room I have on my tab. 2019, I called it collections. This year with this font, the word collections didn't fit comfortably on the tab, so now it's called lists, which is fine too. So the one I perpetually keep moving over is my top one here is my Disney bucket list, just because I think this one is super fun. And that I just kind of, as we take trips, periodically, I kind of try to mark off a couple of things each time we go so that I know we're doing something different. So I just keep moving that one over every time I have a new one. I haven't moved over a lot of my 2019 ones yet. My tracker is over here on the right. I have moved over my savings tracker, my reading, my games, and my movie tracker, which I think is super cute as you fill in the little movie posters of the movies that you see. And then on the game tracker, I have a little symbol sticker that I keep up here with a coin. So once I play a game, I put the little coin there. And then the reading tracker, I just color in. Savings tracker, I'll put in some denominations once I decide how much I think I can save this year, and I like to color those in throughout the year as well. And that's all I have so far there. And then I have a travel section because I really enjoy setting up pages for when we travel and keeping all of our itineraries and ideas for what we want to do. And, it's another section where I can do a lot of decorating if I want to, or journaling if I want to. I have no idea what we're going to do this year, so nothing here yet. And then I just have a generic journal section in case I want to write or memory capture or anything throughout the year. And then my last one here will be work projects throughout the year. So those are my tabs for the top, and then we get into my months. So I tried really hard to find decorative elements for each of my months using this kind of muted color palette that I was already working with. And I ended up using, I think, a lot of the free kits from, I should have looked all this up before I did the video. Is it Pink Pixel Kits that does all the free kits? I want to say it was it Pink Punch or Pink Pixel? Oh, you guys are killing me with all the pink. I think it was Pink Pixel. I'll have to look it up. So anyway, I use a lot of their monthly and weekly kits to do my decorating because the color palette just worked really well with the theme I was going for. So every month I have a blank habit tracker on the left where I can fill in my categories at the top for what I want to track that month. And so at least all my graphics are already there and it's already compressed, so I don't have to worry about my monthly pages being ridiculously huge. Really, surprisingly, I think my favorite feature of ZoomNotes has now become the fill tool, which is silly. It's such a simple thing, but goodness, everybody should just have a fill tool in their app. It's amazing, and it makes life so much better. And usually when I do my monthly habit trackers, I like to, actually the fill tool and the little color dropper, those two together make my planning life so much more convenient and amazing. When I do my habit tracker, I like to go in and find like a little subtle picture or subtle color in my picture to use. So in this one, like I'd probably use the red on this bird. So I can go into my fill tool, go to my color picker, pick up the red out of that bird, and then I can use it to track my habits. And I like to pull out colors that I already have on the page. And the fill tool just, it makes my perfectionist brain so much happier to have nice clean squares and to try to manually fill that in myself with like a highlighter tool or something. Take those out. And then of course my next page I showed you a little bit earlier. I have my smaller monthly goals on the left, and then I am using the freebie mood trackers over here from Kara from the Boho Berry page, because I thought they were pretty amazing, and I wanted to have a place to track more than one mood per day, because a lot of times when I was doing the mood, like the mandala, where I was doing one color per day, I would get to the end of the day and go, oh gosh, I really don't know. This morning I thought I was going to say I was, tired, but then by the end of the day, this amazing thing happened, and I was having a hard time choosing something. So I decided I would try one this year that has 2 spots per day. And again, I thought this was a really, really convenient way to use the ZoomNotes features, because I have all of the stuff down here at the bottom, and I can just go into that color picker and, pick up one and go up here and easily fill in, whatever I'm doing for that day. So anytime that I thought like, oh, do I just want to stick with GoodNotes for 2020? And I'd be like, oh God, I can't live without the color picker and the fill tool. So there's that. And then this moon tracker also came with the moon phases at the top, which I had the moon phase stickers from the Boho Berry store from probably a year ago when they came out. So I just made them in here into a little folder, and I can fill those in at the start of every month. I already sized them for these little circles, so every month I can just go in here and, pull up a calendar and put them where they go. I don't know. I've never really tracked moon phases before, but since they were on here, I'm probably just gonna, I don't know, it's kind of neat, so I'll probably see if I stick with it. And then into my weekly spread, into my weekly spread that I'm using. So this is a different layout for me, but I thought it might work really well. In my 2019 planner, I had a full page spread for the week, and then I had actually 2 pages worth of meal trackers. I had a very large meal tracker where I could write very detailed everything that I was eating or doing that day. And so at the beginning of every month, I was setting up links in ZoomNotes between my weekly page and my meal planning, or my meal tracking. So I had hyperlinks in between those. On the monthly page, I had a hyperlink from each Monday to my food blog. So there was a lot of links I was adding, and of course adding a lot of extra pages to have two food log pages per week. It was a lot of pages, and they were all, giant Procreate images and whatnot. So I kind of, and, a lot of times I would get to the end of the day and I'd be like, oh God, I haven't done my logging since breakfast because I forget. So I thought if I have everything on one page, I will see it. I will see my water. I will see my pills. I will see, I need to write down my food for the day. And, this is the page I leave it open to when I'm sitting at work. And so I thought, thinking about how I like to plan, it seemed logical to me to have just kind of a generic to-do list, because a lot of times, I have a list of things that I want to do at work that week, but not always, this on Monday, this on Tuesday. It was just, at some point this week, I need to get these 10 things done, and I'm just going to kind of work on them as it seems appropriate or as the mood strikes me. So now I'm just going to do one perpetual to-do list for the week. I still have the sections Monday through Friday at the top. If something has to occur on a specific day, or if I have meetings, I will write those up there. Of course, we have no meetings this week because everyone's on vacation. And then a generic notes section, and a smaller section if I have any specific weekend plans I need to keep track of. And then, on the right, my Monday through Sunday. And then, so yesterday I did not make all of my water, but and I am going to go ahead and turn that on to just do a couple real quick. I got close. Hopefully by the time January 1 rolls around, I will, it's probably about right. I will be back used to drinking my 3 full bottles of water every day. I got really out of practice over the last probably month or so. Really, since we moved, everything's been chaotic. But so yeah, that's the weekly spread I'm going with for this year. I mean, and that's pretty much it. I can just walk through my other months. It's my February setup, and they're pretty much all going to be the same, except I changed the quotes on the goal page. You know, some of them are random. Some of them I try to fit, like, you know, the theme or the holidays for that month. Unfortunately, her freebie tracker was a normal February 28-day tracker. So I did not really want to take the time to try to fix it in Procreate just to add the 29th. So the 29th will just be a free day that I don't track, which is fine. And then I did kind of change the colors around. I use the same colors every week, but I changed like which category, which boxes they were for my weekly spread. So February, you know, the week is green, and in January, I think it was purple or something. Yeah. So I didn't want it to be too monotonous, so I kind of switched things around a little bit. So here's my March page and goals. These are pretty much all the same, except for the quotes. So here's April and May. And a lot of these came from that same studio. And some of them I had already from previous times I've decorated. Some of them I found on Etsy. I was just trying to find, you know, that kind of muted color palette. I know this was a boho berry set that I got last year, which I thought was, you know, fun for summer. September, October, November, and December. And then, like I said, so I go through I haven't gone through these yet, so they're not cached yet. But you see, after they load once, they load really quickly. So here's all my December. And then at the end of every, you know, at the end of every section, at the end of every month, I have a page that fits that section with the tabs in the correct place. So if I want to, you know, add pages somewhere, or if I end up not, if I end up not using it throughout the month, I'll probably, well, regardless, I will probably use the last page every month for like a monthly reflection on the left, and on the right, maybe some pictures, because I really want to get into the habit of doing a little more memory keeping on a regular basis. I like to do, you know, big scrapbooks for big events and big trips and things like that. But I really want to start doing a little bit more routine memory keeping. So I'm going to try to take some pictures and put them at the end of every month as well. And then I have a hidden link at the top left of my planner up here that will take me back to my front page. So yeah, that's my 2020 setup. And yeah, mostly excited about the fill tool, which I know is sort of dorky. And of course, I also love layers. This is pretty much my standard setup when I do my planners. I'll go back here. I always have, of course, I used to have a page layout at the very bottom because I was doing some sort of decorative thing. But now that I already have it as part of the planner, my bottom page is my coloring, because I like to, you know, put stuff on the page and then go underneath it and, you know, do some shading or coloring or highlighting. I still have a section for page layouts because I do add elements that I want to make sure are locked. And then I have my writing, and then my navigation for my master layer. And I have absolutely no idea why I still have this tabs layer. I think it's a carryover from my 2019, so I will probably be deleting that layer. But yeah, layers are awesome. Fill tool is awesome. I use my little sticker book here quite a bit. I like to have these appointment labels. I like to track the weather as well. I will probably be putting those on my weekly spread. A lot of these other ones won't apply anymore now that I have a pre-dated page and I have like a section for all this. I won't really need some of these other labels anymore for this year. But I really like having the symbols to easily get to. And my fill tool for all my stuff, it gave me such anxiety when I thought about using a different app to fill in all these trackers and not have the fill tool. So Okay, that's enough rambling. Clearly, I'm bored at 6:30 in the morning. Um, all right, well, I hope everybody has a great New Year and a great New Year's Day, and happy 2020.